All right, welcome everyone to Nesto's Instagram Live. Reason I'm talking to you today is because shorter-term fixed rates have risen a lot in popularity, specifically at Nesto, but I'm sure across Canada as well. What I mean by shorter-term fixed rate is I mean the 2-year and the 3-year fixed. Generally, the borrowers in Canada are often choosing between the 5-year fixed, 5-year variable. The market is not exactly normal today, and neither are the standard choices. So with 2 and 3 years becoming very popular, I thought it was a good opportunity to share why this is happening, the pros, the cons, and also talk a little bit about why the 5 years is actually decreasing in popularity as well. So for those who don't know me, my name is Belair. I am the principal broker and one of 4 co-founders here at Nesto. I just want to remind you that if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I'll try and get to them at the very end. And we will also record this so that if you cannot stay for the whole thing, we will replay it back for you at another time. And a mini disclaimer, because I will be giving advice over the next 15 minutes. My advice and my thoughts and my predictions around the interest rate environment in Canada is purely based on the information available to me today. So today is November 21st, 2022. It's the product of as many reports, data, opinions I can absorb, comprehend, and then regurgitate back to you. So there's 2 primary beliefs that go into my advice. And the first belief is that inflation will significantly drop by the end of 2023. So that's my bet number 1, so to speak. A lot of the market has priced that in. Goldman Sachs is repeating that as well last week in the paper. And then the second prediction would be that, that we have a high likelihood of a recession. When you have a high likelihood of a recession, or when you are in a recession, it's generally a recipe for lower rates. So those are the 2 bets or assumptions that I'm making today, which in turn end up being the advice that you're going to hear throughout the next 10-15 minutes. So you're all here to learn about the short-term fixed rates. But first I want to remind everyone why traditionally the 5-year rates were a lot more popular. So 5-year fixed, 5-year variable are generally the 2 primary options that borrowers are choosing when they're buying a home or renewing their existing mortgages. And I'll tell you why that was the case. So 5-year mortgage term gives a borrower 5 years of security. So when you qualify for a mortgage, it's not always a fun experience. But once you are approved and you have that mortgage, a 5-year term gives you 5 years of peace of mind. You can relocate, you can change jobs, you can take time off, paternity leave, sabbatical. You can really rearrange your life without it impacting your cost of borrowing on your next mortgage, because 5 years is ample time to make those kind of changes. This is kind of a sillier reason, but honestly, people don't like going through the mortgage process. Historically in Canada especially, qualifying is not necessarily fun. In some cases, it almost feels invasive. So going through that less than or more than once in 5 years is not something that many people want to sign up for. And then lastly, the main reason I think it has been historically most popular is because the deals. What I mean by deals is that a lender will make enough money on a 5-year term, and they can forecast enough money on that term to really give you a deal, which is like a discount on their profit margin for opting for it compared to a 1, 2, or 3 year. So generally speaking, you'll find more value in the 5-year when you're comparing a 2-year to a 5-year, who's going to give you the better deal from where they're starting from in your negotiating power, so to speak. So the first question I'll ask myself and everyone else is, are shorter terms better right now, or has the 5-year just lost its appeal? And the answer is actually a little bit of both. The 5-year is definitely less appealing today, and going into those 2 predictions that I just mentioned previously, which is likelihood of a recession, likelihood of inflation being significantly lower by year end, those 2 predictions being true, if true, lead you to believe that the 5-year is priced today as high as it should be, or almost as high as it's going to be in the near future. To put that in other words, it's almost like buying a car at the highest price it's been for sale at for a long time, with strong indicators saying it's going to be cheaper in the near future. So that's why the 5-year fixed has lost its appeal today. It's still a great an option for a lot of cases. Just generally speaking, it's less attractive today than it has been historically. Cannot say the same for the 5-year variable, but more on that later. Another reason why the 5-year would have lost its appeal, and this is I think a very strong reason, is that if the price today or tomorrow is as high as the 5-year is going to be in the next 5 years down the road, then having a 5-year fixed rate mortgage today would also yield probably the highest mortgage penalty that you would face if you were to break that mortgage over the next 5 years. For example, if you've got a 5-year fixed rate today at 5%, and rates are 3% when you sell your property or want to refinance or break that mortgage contract, your penalty is going to be significantly larger than if the 5-year would have been higher in the future when you're breaking that mortgage. So that's a little bit of a con or a deterrent to opting for the 5-year fix today, increasing the attractiveness of the shorter terms. So all that above, matched with the market's optimism around the government's ability to combat inflation, has really driven the popularity of our 2- and 3-year fixed rates at Nesto, and I'm sure other mortgage lenders across Canada are experiencing similar changes in their product splits. A little bit deeper on the 2- and 3-year rates and why we also believe that it's a smart option and growing in popularity is if you were to speak to the smartest mortgage brains or rate brains in the country and ask them to take their predictions on where rates are going and put them in a 5-year model, majority of these people or these models would come to the conclusion that a 1-year fixed today, someone getting a mortgage today, choosing a 1-year fixed is probably the most cost-effective option because they're able to renew 1 year from now when we believe rates are going to be lower into a new term with more insight at that time. The complicated part in saying a 1-year fixed is the better option, though, is that it leaves almost no room for error. So if you get a mortgage today at 1-year fixed, you're due for renewal next November 21st. The likelihood of rates being lower at that time is quite high today compared to what we've heard and what we've seen over the past few months, but it still doesn't leave much room for error. Whereas if you were to opt for a 2-year term or 3-year term, you're giving yourself a lot more time for rates to get down to where we believe they're going to go. I don't think we'll ever see rates as low as we previously saw. You had variable rates at 0.85, 5-year variable, and fixed rates as low as 1.39. I don't think we're going to go there again. But I do think that we will see some rate drops in the near future based on the inflation target being met or almost met and the likelihood of a recession being as high as it is. So going back to having your mortgage be due for renewal 1 year from now and why that's a little bit nerve-wracking is if the Bank of Canada struggles to meet its inflation objective, they don't really have many levers to play with. One of those levers is increasing the prime rate. So if our inflation objective misses target or does not if the inflation rate does not go down to the way we think it is or the way that they suspect it is based on the maneuvers, 1-year fixed rate is going to end up being a scary mortgage to have because your mortgage will be becoming due for renewal, meaning you have to act at a time when rates might not be where you wanted them to be. I would say a 6-month term is even scarier than a 1-year term. There's a very little chance that the Bank of Canada will have achieved its objective within 6 months. So I would not want my mortgage to be due for renewal in 6 months if I had the choice today to get a mortgage. Based on the fact that the Bank of Canada is likely going to be reducing the rates, and I say that based on these two predictions, but if those predictions are true and Bank of Canada reduces the interest rate, it makes the variable rate, the 5-year variable rate, attractive again. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because we are almost certain that the Bank of Canada will increase the prime rate again one more time in December. Whether it's 0.25, 0.5, or 0.75 is still not certain or not clear to us yet. But that also increases, or just knowing that, it still doesn't take away the fact that the variable option, the 5-year variable, leaves you with a lot of flexibility. So if you're asking me, Chase, do I take a 2-year fix today or a 5-year variable today? I would return the question back at you and say, not the same question, I would ask you this question. If you can stomach another 1% increase in your mortgage rate, so take your payment on your today's variable rate, add 1% to that. If you can stomach that increase, you might find yourself in a very good position 2-3 years from now, because the variable rate will give you the opportunity to benefit from future declines, and will always give you the opportunity to break that mortgage with the smallest mortgage penalty possible. Keep in mind that a variable rate mortgage is a 3-month interest penalty. This doesn't apply to all mortgages, but most variable rate mortgages, that penalty can be estimated by taking your monthly payment, multiplying it by 1.5. So if you have a 25-year amortization or around there remaining, 1.5 times your monthly payment is a good estimate of what your mortgage penalty would be. You can't say the same on a fixed rate. So the variable rate, based on these assumptions, is still attractive when you look at the 5-year, because while you will have an increased payment come December, the likelihood of you having a much lower payment and rate going forward is a lot higher today than it was anytime over the past 3 months, I would say. Historically at Nesto, I'm going back into the variable and fixed rate choices here. Historically at Nesto, we've generally been about 50% fixed, 50% variable. But right before the pandemic started, when the pandemic started, the variable rate increased in popularity a lot because the Bank of Canada was reducing the overnight rate. So Variable reached a high, I believe, at Nesto of 67%, which means 67% of our customers were choosing the 5-year variable. Today, that number is much lower. It's down just below 50, and the difference is being taken up by those 2- and 3-year fixed rate choices, which I do believe are great choices. And if I was in the mortgage market today and I could not foresee myself being comfortable with a higher payment come December, I personally would choose a 2-year fixed rate, meaning that I believe that the rates 2 years from today, so November 21st, 2024, are going to be as low at that moment in time than over any other time during the next 5 years. And that's my sweet spot for renewal. I want to renew at the end of the year, not next year, but the following year. And again, this advice or these predictions is based on information available today. And the reports, the data, it comes out on a weekly basis. Some of the large reports come out monthly, so this may change. But today I do have a lot of confidence in saying that a 2-year fixed rate or 5-year variable rate, assuming you can handle a slightly higher payment come December, are great, attractive mortgage options. So if any questions, don't be shy, just throw them at us and we'll answer them either personally to you or through our next Instagram Live. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, please don't be shy to reach out to Nesto mortgage experts to lock in your interest rate. One thing that we have that the most lenders don't offer is the ability to lock in a rate for 150 days. So majority of mortgage lenders will allow you to lock in a rate for 120 days, giving you a lot of time to shop around, do your homework, and also see where the market's going. At Nesto, we provide that same certainty, but we add another 30 days to that, so 150 days. Please don't be shy to reach out and have an awesome Monday and enjoy your week.